The droid you are looking for, Canada. Tech Review.
Welcome to the droid you are looking for podcast Tech Review. Rick is back. He caved. I called Sony. They know.
I feel so dirty, although I'm getting over it rather quickly.
Stormy, behave. So, you recently purchased... How did this come about? I know, but let's let you listeners find out. How did this come about that you ended up with an Xbox One?
Okay, well, as you all know, I am diehard. I'm not going to say loyal anymore, but diehard PlayStation fan. I saw some reviews and I got the huge chubby for TitanFall. And I at one point was going through and I considered getting the Xbox One, everything. And then I'm like, no, I can't. So I was going to wait until it came out for 360 because I had a 360. So on the 22nd, the release date for TitanFall on the 360, we go to Best Buy. We're getting everything we need for it. And it's been pushed back to August 8th.
Now it's August. I thought it was April.
No, sorry, April 8th.
I was going to say.
Yeah. It was April 8th, sorry. And I was just overly anxious and had built it up. And then we called GameStop, and they're having a special that if you trade in an Xbox 360 or a PS3, you can get it to go towards, you get 50% more to go towards getting an Xbox One or a PS4, depending upon your system. So Xbox for Xbox, da-da-da-da. So I needed this game, and I caved, and I now have the Titanfall Xbox One bundle.
Now, you made it sound like you need it, you wanted it, unless there's some type of addiction issues that I don't know about. Just saying.
No, I needed it.
You need it? All right, so we'll just stick to the system right now. Recently we have done a first impressions, and Rick did some heavy research about Titanfall. So I guess we'll just talk about the Xbox One. And I don't know. I know what I know, but I'm sure there's a lot more things. I think it was kind of cool. Last night, Rick was able to call me via Skype from his Xbox One. We encountered a very funny issue, a snafu, if you want to call it that. I kept zooming in on his face and or balls, and I don't know how to react to that. He claims that it wasn't him zooming in, so what can you tell us about that?
I have no idea what it was doing. The new camera is, for one, it is very, very detailed. It's high resolution, everything like that. So, and it has the zoom capabilities, which the other one didn't. So I had no idea what it was going to do at this point. I figured it was just going to be a big wide angle. And then we sat down, started the call, and it zoomed in on me. And I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then it zoomed out, and then back in, and then out. And then my wife walks into the room, and it zooms in on her, and then zooms out, and then zooms back on. There's got to be a setting someplace. I have no idea what it's doing, but it made for some good laughs.
It did, and just for the record, when it zoomed in on his wife, I was happy. Carry on.
Yeah, I don't know what and the funny part is we had just said her name, and she has a profile on there, and it will recognize her name if you say it. So as soon as we said her name, it zoomed in on her.
Yeah, and I think that was very interesting. I found the quality not to be the greatest, but it's expected. Mind you, you do live in, I wouldn't want to say the armpit of Arizona, but your internet service isn't the greatest, as per you. And that had to hurt to download a 50 gigabyte game. Yeah. How long was the exact download?
Well, it wouldn't have been as long if I had remembered to shut off the power off automatically after 4 hours. I started it at about 6 o'clock at night, and I got to play it at about 4 or 5 o'clock the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Canadian has like your guys' internet is so much faster. I was all excited about having unlimited internet. No, I see why it's unlimited because it's shit.
Yes, the
Although
speed is less than favorable. I think it's funny that I think it was something to the effect of you could have came here,
yeah,
you could have flew back to Canada, got to the house, sat down, downloaded it, and flew back, and you'd still be downloading it if you just stayed in the States. That's insane.
Even as soon as I plugged in the Xbox, there's an update. Not a surprise. But I had to do a 500 meg update before I could do anything with it. So right off the bat, I plug it in, get everything hooked up. I got an hour before I can do anything with it.
Wow, that's pretty insane. So, what's the functionality? How does it feel? I guess I would say because a lot of people were upset about the Xbox 360 because the design wasn't really the greatest. I'll give you that the design looks a lot better than it did in the 360. But what's the controls feel like?
The controls, if you're used to an Xbox controller, this controller feels pretty much the same. There's really not a whole lot of difference. They moved the Xbox button from the top. They moved it from the middle up to the top. Other than that, instead of having your typical start and select buttons, you now have a Windows button and a menu button. The menu button pretty much does the same thing as the pause button, so I don't know why they had to relabel it. And I'll be totally honest, I haven't even found a use for the Windows button yet. I keep pushing it randomly just to see it do something, and it doesn't do anything. So I'm not too sure about that. As for navigating, I don't like it. It looks like a Windows 8 tablet, phone, computer, whichever. It looks like Windows 8. You have your pins, so you have the little blocks and everything like that. You can pin things to the home page, which is kind of nice because I pinned my Netflix, I pinned the Skype to it. So, I mean, it is kind of nice in that aspect. It doesn't feel very intuitive to me anyway, because, I mean, I'm used to PlayStation. So, it's not a linear thing. You don't have, your linear options. You can go through different things. It's pretty much all on one page, and you just kind of move around.
Okay. Now, you were playing with the tab functionality, the beaming it and so forth, and that functionality was kind of available with the PlayStation 3 because I remember I used to do that with YouTube, how you're able to flip it over to the screen. Now, the PlayStation, when they came out with the Xbox One, the big selling point was having it being able to jump from tablets to computers to phones. And you still haven't found really much of a purpose for that because you don't have a Windows phone or a Windows tablet. So do you think you need to be necessarily like a Microsoft fanboy to really enjoy this functionality?
Absolutely not, actually. You can go, regardless if you have an iPhone or an Android, you can go and download the Smart Glass app. I can literally control everything on my Xbox with my phone. I can sit and go through the menus. I can tell it to do things. I can select stuff. I can watch my game clips on my phone when I'm not anywhere near my near my Xbox. I'm going to do that a whole lot, by the way. So, I mean, there's a lot of really cool things. The glass, honestly, I love it. Is it a need to have? No. In total usefulness, other than being able to go up to someone and go like, dude, watch this video. There's really not a whole lot of practical use to it. It's cool as hell, though.
Okay. Is there any other selling points? Because I know when they do big reviews, they touch on the things that you need to know, like, the specs and the functionalities and such. Is there anything that maybe they have never covered before that you may have come across that you might find very interesting?
Well, one of the things we toyed around with a little bit with the Xbox 360 and the Kinect was the voice commands. You can literally voice command everything on this. Just say Xbox Select and then just tell it to do whatever you want it to do. Even in the middle of a game, you can start screaming out Xbox commands. The funniest thing that I've actually been having a lot of fun with is I'm playing Titanfall, something cool happens. All you have to do is just yell Xbox, record that, and it will record the last 30 seconds of whatever just happened. I've got like videos of me getting ripped out of Titans and blowing guys up, and it's cool how the fact that it DVRs pretty much up to 5 minutes of your gameplay, so that you can just yell record that and it will automatically do that. You can yell Xbox on, it turns on. Yells Xbox off, it turns off. When you turn the thing on, you literally just have to stand in front of it, and it will, well, you don't even have to stand, you can be sitting in front of it. It will recognize you and automatically log you in. So there are some really cool selling features that's on it. I know a lot of people were concerned that, yeah, it recognizes you. Oh no, government's going to keep track of us, but I really don't care about all that.
If they really want to know what game I'm playing on my Xbox, power to them. At least I know someone's looking at my achievements.
Yeah, hell, the NSA could join my game for all I care. They'll probably have plenty of military knowledge.
It just kind of pisses me off that someone would think that way. I mean, realistically, if I'm playing Call of Duty Ghost, if the NSA want to help me get through extinction, hey, power to them. You know what I mean? I won't judge them any differently. So I guess it was worth the money. I guess it was worth the money getting the Xbox, is what you're trying to say.
I absolutely think so. I wanted to give it a fair chance. I am a diehard PlayStation fan. In my opinion, one is not actually better than the other. They pretty much got the same specs. The thing is insanely fast. Like, I'm just trying to take pictures of games, and it's just motion blurred because everything goes so fast. It just flies through menus, no questions asked. I'm definitely enjoying the hell out of it.
Cool. Okay. So that's pretty awesome. Let's move on to Titanfall, I guess. So we did as I said previously, we did a first impressions. We did a lot of research on it. So what's your feelings on it now? Now that you've actually had an opportunity to sit down and play it and lose hours of your life, what do you think?
Oh, fucking God. This game is insane. The game changer, yeah. As I said before, I suck at first-person shooters. It is so much fun, even if you do suck at first-person shooters. I'm spending rounds all dying constantly, but I'm having so much fun doing it because I'm getting to take out other people. I'm getting to play with giant robots. I mean, there's so many aspects in the game that keep you interested, even if you're not the greatest player. And I can see myself progressing as I'm going. I'm watching my kill counts go up and my death counts go down. I'm finding new ways to do things. So, being a first run game from the company, it's insane. I love it. I right there, it's worth me getting the Xbox alone. Okay.
Now, from doing our first impressions podcast the other day to now, what stands out what are the positives, I guess, that you may have encountered since then? Because I know you did a lot of research, but what's the gameplay feel like?
The gameplay is smooth as silk. Other than my slow internet and losing connection every now and then, which I really don't lose it that often, not as often as I thought I would, it's so fast-paced. You never stop moving. One of the biggest things I hated with Call of Duty is the campers. You don't get a chance to be a camper because you're constantly running. If you're not getting chased down by a pilot, you're getting chased down by a Titan. You find yourself a spot to hide in and you want to camp for a little bit, something will inevitably find you. And I've also found that the bots tend to find you if you're camping. So I think they even built that into the game, that if you're in the same spot for too long, the AI will find you and kill you. So
I think that's what you brought up in the last podcast, is how the game brings in bots. So it has to keep you, I guess I could say, honest, that you need to actually play the game to succeed, because no matter what's happening with the rest of the group, that there's always a bot floating around looking for something to kill, and
Yeah.
that's good. Like, I mean, I think that's something they could have implemented, and I think that's a selling point for like zombies, Call of Duty zombies, and Extinction, is that you're co-oping at the same time, but there's always an AI that's keeping you honest, so you can't sit there and camp, because you do, you're always going to get put down. So I think that's an awesome selling point. What's the controls like for the mech?
Honestly, they're pretty much they're pretty much the same as they are for the pilots. You can feel the difference when you're moving around. You don't run as fast. Instead of jumping, you have what's called a dash, which is basically just a little rocket pack that like pushes you to the side or up, so you don't have the jump. You do. I have found there's sometimes some places where you're wandering around, you're like, I'm going to go that way. Well, there's a little, barricade, and all of a sudden I can't go over that barricade because, it's 2 feet off the ground. So, I mean, there are little things that you can find. I guess it would be kind of glitches. But when you get in the max, you're very heavy. You can feel it kind of just lumbering around. I thought it would be restrictive in the visual, like in the vision. You wouldn't be able to see as much, but they actually do bring it up. You jump in the mech and it like pops into like panels that you can see everything around you. So it's very nice in the controls. I find myself using the agile fast mech most of the time, just because he actually has a bit more of a run than the other ones, so I can hightail it out of there and get the fuck out of situations that I'm losing. One thing with them is when you're in the mech, it's easy as hell to kill people. I get stepped on all the time. It pisses me off, but you can step on other people at the same time. You can punch a pilot, and it's cool because it shows your replay after you die from the other person's perspective, and it's literally just like a red water balloon just explodes. So, but I have found it's very hard if you're in a mech to kill another mech. I mean, the Titans are nuts in the fact that they are very indestructible. It's actually easier to kill a Titan as a pilot than it is as a mech.
Interesting. Now, has there been any type of storyline provided to you? And I guess, is there any point to having a campaign mode in this? Because this seems very multiplayer driven. So, is there any type of story to it?
Yes, actually there is. There's 2 stories. They're very short. I've already finished one of them. Basically, I mean, the storyline... Oh, wait. Would it be spoilers if I gave the storyline away?
Say it's a spoiler, then say it.
Okay. Spoiler alert, spoiler. Yeah, there we go. Basically, I mean, the premise is there's a militia and there's a government faction. Either way, you play it. You start off as the militia, then you play it again as the ICM, as they're called. Pretty much, you are battling the government for resources, fuel, food, water, everything like that. It does have a storyline it goes through. You can tell that they were kind of trying out the storyline on it. It really is basically round after round of multiplayer. So it's not... If you're playing it for a campaign, it's not going to be that kind of game. It does have the campaign. You can go through, you can play it. Honestly, I've found that I get more from playing the multiplayers. I'm getting like 4,000 experience playing a multiplayer round, whereas I'm getting like 400 or 500 when I'm playing in the campaign mode. But it does introduce you to the different multiplayer modes, and you open up things in the multiplayer modes that you can use later on.
Okay. Now, I guess is there anything negative that you found with Titanfall? It's got to be something. There's no such thing as a perfect game.
Yes, there are negative spots on it. There is the one... Well, this is a plus and a positive. There's no stop you, like when you're going through and you're playing the campaign. You would think that it would try and keep everyone at the same level. No. If you are the militia, your levels will always be lower than if they are like all your characters. Your levels are going to be lower, like maybe 10, 20, or less. Because that's what you start off in the campaign. So as soon as you get over to the ICM, your team is like 40s and 50s and prestiges, and I mean, it's very one-sided. They want you. It almost seems like they want you to play as the militia and fail, and then play as the ICM and succeed in the game. So I did. There was enough to keep me interested into it, but I did find myself getting a bit frustrated when I was playing as the militia, because I'm playing against guys that are like double prestige and level 40, and I think I won 1 round out of the 10 rounds that is in the campaign.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure we got over everything we could with that, so you're pretty much going to stick to it at this point, and I'm pretty much not going to hear from you much over the next week. Just make sure you send me a message once in a while so I know you're not dead. That'd be greatly appreciated.
I'll be sending you messages. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can share my game clips, because some of the clips that I'm recording are just crazy. I have one where one of the things you can do with the Titans is you obviously do melee attacks. If you're facing the front of a Titan and you do a melee attack, your Titan rips off the shell, pulls out the guy inside, and throws him against the wall in a bloody mess.
Ow.
Yeah, I got video of it, and I'm like, I have to share this. Somehow, some way, I have to share this. Well, Xbox won't let you share it outside of Xbox right now. They are working on it, apparently, but right now the only way is you can share it with other Xbox Live members.
Well, that's something I'm going to have to look forward to, I guess. So that's pretty much that. Do you have anything else you would want to throw in before we wrap that up?
Those of you who are diehard PlayStation fans, every once in a while a game does come out that may be worth switching. Honestly, in my opinion, at this point, TitanFall is one of those. Maybe not switching, but adding the one to the repertoire. I think this is one of those games. It absolutely is the game changer. Whether you're a seasoned pro or a shitty shooter like me, there's enough to keep you interested and develop your skills so that you can definitely keep up with the big dogs.
All right, cool. And that is that. I'm pretty much as good at this point, unless you want to ask me stuff about Metal Gear. It's been a very crazy week for us, trying out all these new different things, so that game has definitely been interesting for me, at least.
All right, so all in all, I know online everyone is bitching about how the actual game length, everything like that. We understand it's kind of a teaser. Is $30 worth the amount of time that the game actually has included is my first question.
Well, I mean, when I didn't realize how my opinions were as bang on as I thought they were, because I'm not a person to listen to multiple reviews, but I was curious, and I recently turned you on to him, to Angry Joe, and he's not the best person to review something, but he gets the point across. And after listening to his review, everything I had to say on my first impressions review was pretty bang on. And what I mean by that is this was just a giant overgrown demo, is what it was. And I think giant is probably not the best of words to use. I felt that for the price you paid $34.99 for a up to 30-minute game. And there's guys who have done speed runs who have completed that actual part of the storyline mission in less than 7 minutes. Now, they did add on additional things for you to do, like rescue a hostage, assassinate a certain character, obtain secret documents, but it's all in the same map, and it has nothing to do with the actual storyline of the video game. It's just something they wanted to add on so they could say at the end of the day that, hey, look, we gave you a little bit more content than we should have. No, you kind of owe me $20, is what I would say. Ultimately, this is something that should have been $10 or even a free demo, I guess I would say.
Now, the other thing that I was reading on it is, and obviously, if you want to throw spoilers in, you're more than welcome to. Just say the word. But I was reading that this does bridge the gap between Peace Walker and the one that, like, the new one that will be coming out, which I can't remember the name of it this exact second.
Phantom Pain.
That's it. Do you find, like, I mean, did it kind of explain some storylines so it, like, makes sense with what is supposed to be happening going forward?
Not really. I mean, there's a lot of missed story. And if you're a diehard fan, it's the only way you can stay on top of it. And what I mean by that is if you were a diehard fan and you owned a PlayStation PSP, if you remember that shitty thing, you would actually have played Peace Walker because it would go Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater, then Peace Walker. I know there was another one, which is Portable Ops, which really is more of just an add-on, not more of a storyline, and then moved over to this game. And in the demo, you spent more time watching the FMV, so it has to be a Kojima video game, but you spent more time watching it than you did playing it. It didn't really bridge anything. If I was a new fan of the franchise, I wouldn't have a fucking clue what's going on. Not a clue. Nothing is explained at all. You more or less have to break into this detention center / army prison. Basically break out two characters, a kid and Tara Strong, giggity, and break them out and get them to a chopper. I'm not going to give away too much spoilers about what happened during the scene, but if you're just a Joe Schmo off the street playing this game, you're not going to know what's going on. Your mind's going to be fucking blown going, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. Like, they give you as much storyline as they can, but they don't give you enough for you to piece it together prominently for you to go, oh, that makes sense. This is where the storyline's going on. Because for all I know, this chapter we played could be in the middle of the video game. I wouldn't know any different.
Now, what about graphically? One of the things that I've always had a drawn to MSG games is MSG. Wow,
MSG. No MSG.
Chinese food. Anyway, they've always been very graphically driven, almost like to the point of like Final Fantasy, where you can spend the whole game playing it. The gameplay may have sucked in Final Fantasy, but you spend the whole game just like, oh my god, that's beautiful. I mean, how was it graphically? Was it a good taste of what's to come and what the PS4 is actually capable of?
Well, graphically, it was a giant... trying to find, there's no clean way in saying it. Multiple orgasms, I guess, would be the better way to say it. I was actually going to make it a clean comment, but I just can't. It's just not going to happen. I've come to terms with it. Ultimately, graphics are beautiful. Now, you don't get see much though. You have a couple missions at night and a couple missions during the day, but you don't really get to see how much the Fox engine gets pushed. So you don't really know 100% what it's going to be like until you play the final break. But in the FMV sequences, flawless. It was very, like, even there's a scene where someone explodes, which I'm not going to give away too much. That alone was amazing. The slow motion explosion reminded me of Judge Dredd when the slow motion drug kicked in and they were thrown off. You might know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. When they were thrown off, everything's super slow. Like, that was really cool. There was a lot of effort put into that, and I respected. The control scheme, which I'm pretty sure is on your list, it's hard to pick up the first time. The control schemes is the same, but they added in new functionalities, and they changed it around CQC or fighting, hand-to-hand combat, if you want to call it that, close quarter combat. It's very confusing when you play it the first time, because they don't give you a tutorial when you start the game. They basically say, well, dropped you off, go ahead. You're like, well, I don't know what to do here. I don't even know how to fire a gun at this point. Eventually you pick it up.
you start going through doing, okay, now normally this button is a shoot. Oh, shit, no, it's not.
They basically took away the health bar, which a lot of people were pissed off about that because that's iconic to the Metal Gear franchise, is the health bar and taking in rations and what have you. That's gone. They no longer support that anymore. All the things they tried over the years, like you healing yourself in Metal Gear Solid 3, to you finding your own food, basically doing all those things are gone now. It's now converted over to a Call of Duty system of damage regeneration, where you take damage after so much time, eventually you go back to full health again. That's a win. As much as it pisses everyone off, that's a win because I couldn't tell you how many times where you're in a boss battle and you have no rations on you. You're basically fucked at that point. So this is a huge positive as well. The biggest change that everyone had, which pissed a lot of people off, is the fact that David Hayter is no longer Snake. It's now Kiefer Sutherland, and he did a very good job. I mean, what he was given anyways. I think that his voice acting is stellar, and he's done some other voice acting. He was actually in the Call of Duty franchise, World at War, and he's done some recent voice acting for Mortal Kombat. So I don't know what role that is. I would like to know. But beyond that, those are the major changes right now.
Okay, well, one of the other questions I had on there is, if you played Snake Eater, one of the things that I remember in there, and it pissed me off, but I loved the fact that getting weapons was so insanely hard. You had to find ammo, you had to go through. There were so many times that I ended up just going through and trying to take out hordes with my knife because I'd used all my ammo and I don't have any other weapons. In Metal Gear 4, they switched to this delivery system that you can literally just call this thing on your number and call that guy that I can't remember, not to sound racist.
Kodak, yeah.
And, he will just, once you've got enough credits, you can buy specific weapons, and then poof, all of a sudden they're in your inventory to put equip and everything. Did they go, do you have the weapons capability where you can just, instantly order, or do you have to find and ration your ammo and weapons?
Well, in the demo itself, you have to procure everything you find. It's quite a possibility, because I know they added in other functionalities, which I forgot to mention, which I'm going to now, but you have the ability to call a helicopter to come pick you up at any given time. However, in that any part of the map, there's on your data map, there is icons that show you where you can be picked up by a helicopter. So if you are extracting hostages or yourself wants to leave, you would go to these areas and call in a helicopter, and then you would actually have to physically get on the helicopter. But the option of procuring for the drop-off ammunition was not provided in the demo. Doesn't necessarily mean it has not been provided. It just wasn't in the demo itself. And another thing they added into, which I forgot to mention in my previous podcast, so I want to make sure I mention this one, is the added on Last Stand. Now, what Last Stand is, if we're all fans of Call of Duty, is that when you get put on your ass, you have an opportunity to put someone down on your way out. They added in a similar functionality where if you are noticed, it provides you everything in bullet time. So if someone sees you, but you have about 5 seconds to kill that person or trank them in slow motion, otherwise they will alert other guards. The worst thing you can do in this game is alert guards, which is an ongoing thing for Metal Gear Forever, but they keep coming. And I'm not joking. I spent an hour just killing guards because they kept coming. It was getting annoying. Because eventually, in Metal Gear games, you would kill a guard, they call in SWAT or whatever, you take out that crew. And after one or two crews, they eventually stop coming. No, they kept coming. And it was getting to the point that it was frustrating. It made me want to rage quit on the game, because there was no way in hell, after I murder 100 people, that they would keep sending people. At that point, they would say, someone is mass murdering our soldiers, maybe we should not just go in this area for a while.
Yeah, it's one thing. If you did alert them, you could always just hide. That was the best thing that I loved about it. Find tall grass and then go prone. After a couple minutes, they're dumb. They'll just disappear. So, well, all in all, with the game, okay, regardless of price, regardless of gameplay, time, everything like that, did it do what its intention was and make you excited to play the new one that will be coming out?
I think that's not the problem at all. I think that game is going to be purchased. Everyone knows that Phantom Pain is going to be Hideo Kojima's crown jewel of video games. This is going to be the one that revolutionizes video games, period, just the graphics. But the one problem that I have with what he did is that he set a precedent that it's okay for companies to start charging for their demos. He may not be doing it necessarily point blank, but if you really think about it, right now you can download demos for free on Xbox Live or PlayStation Store. But if they see that this profited, which it did, clearly it did, because all the Metal Gear fanboys, myself included, went out and paid $34.99 for a demo. Now, mind you, beknownst to us that it was a demo, we actually thought there was going to be a huge piece of the storyline for us to work with, but it wasn't, so we kind of fell for it. But this is present for other companies like EA and Activision to say, hey, how about we sell a game for $15? It has 2 chapters, and then it gets them excited for the new game. They're going to make even more money hand over fist, or even make it as a downloadable content. Or you can just be smart and just wait for the special edition box set to come out and then pay for the whole goddamn thing. I think that what he did was stupid, and now other people are going to have that idea, which is going to cause a lot of issues with the video game market, which I don't think a lot of people noticed that, but there was one of the points that Angry Joe brought up, and I was like, holy shit, because that is totally true. I never thought about it that way, because now you're going to have all these different people, all these different companies going to say, well, let's start charging for our demos, and then eventually demos will no longer be free, and no one's going to be able to try a game before they play it, because that was a huge selling point going to a PlayStation 3 for me. Years ago, it was like, I can play the game before I rent it. That saves me money. Now I know better.
While I agree on some aspects, and I disagree with the whole mentality on, charging for demos, everything like that. If it was $15, honestly, I would go pick it up right now.
Well, yeah, it was $15, but I mean, $34.99. It's clearly evident it's a cash grab. I wouldn't say he didn't hide the fact of it, but it's like buying Titanfall for $35, going home, and you only have 30 minutes on the multiplayer session. You'd be like, oh my god. You would lose your shit, because I know I lost my shit. And I was depressed because I was literally taking my time because I wanted to learn every nook and cranny of the game. And then I watched a speed walkthrough in 6 minutes. The game was done. $34.99. You pay $40 for 6 minutes. You can pay less for a blowjob in a strip joint for that. Like, that's ridiculous. So,
and hopefully it's longer.
But I'm not going to say Ground Zeroes was not a good game. The game is not the problem. The additions and to the control scheme and the new things you can do with your characters, the voice acting, the graphics, the storyline, the music, everything top notch. Like, I mean, every Metal Gear or PlayStation fanboy has a hard-on for this game. But for $34.99, it was not worth it. This could have been something you could have got off Xbox Live or PlayStation Store for $10. I bought games for $5 that lasted me 8 hours of content. That's the point I'm trying to make.
And I agree. Like I said, I mean, it's one that I would, if it was less money, I would absolutely consider it, just because, I mean, I've played through most of the Metal Gears, so I would definitely go through and play it. I can't bring myself to pay that much money for 4 hours of game total.
Yeah.
If that. So I don't know.
I mean, when you play this game, it's very hypnotic and it makes you want to continue playing it, but I just don't think the money was worth it. Of course, I'm going to buy it. I'm a fanboy. I admit that. When it comes to Metal Gear, that's probably one of the biggest things I'm a fanboy for. But if it was any other game, including up to, even if it was like a Last of Us, I wouldn't pay it. Wouldn't pay it at all.
I'll wait for the full version to come out.
Yeah. All right. Do you have any other questions for me?
What are you wearing?
Close. Sorry to ruin that for you.
No, that's pretty much it. I mean, we've touched on everything. Yeah, I'm gonna go play my Xbox One now.
And I'm gonna go to bed. All right, and while you're playing Titanfall, enjoy your chimichanga.
Barbaric! Game over, man! It's game over!
Thanks for listening to the Droids We're Looking For podcast. Stay tuned for next week's podcast.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.